I'm Bianca, 28 years old, and in my family we have this tradition of giving meaningful Christmas presents. Last year, the living room was filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon as we gathered around the tree. My sister Jamie unwrapped a box containing keys to a new Audi. When my turn came, I received a pink piggy bank with $2 inside. Mom smiled warmly. "That's our contribution to your future home." So I packed my things and left. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss how this story ends. Growing up as the older sister in the Harrison family wasn't what you'd expect. From early on, there seemed to be an invisible dividing line between how my parents treated me and my younger sister Jamie, who's now 23. When we were kids, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Jamie would get the newest gaming console while I received educational books. For her 10th birthday, she got a lavish party at an amusement park with 20 friends. For mine, we had cake in the backyard with my two closest friends. Jamie's more social, my parents would explain. She needs these experiences to build confidence. I started working when I was 16, taking a job at the local grocery store after school and on weekends. My parents told me it would build character and teach me financial responsibility. Meanwhile, Jamie focused exclusively on dance classes and social activities. "Your sister has special talents that need nurturing," Dad would say whenever I questioned the difference in treatment. When college applications came around, I applied for every scholarship possible. I still remember the night I received my acceptance letter to State University, along with a partial scholarship. My parents congratulated me but followed quickly with, "You'll need to figure out how to pay the rest." I worked 3 part-time jobs through college mornings at a coffee shop, evenings at the campus library, and weekends doing data entry for a local business. I graduated with $42,000 in student loans, which I'm still paying off today. Jamie, on the other hand, received a fully funded college experience. When she turned 16, our parents surprised her with a used but reliable Honda. "She needs it to get to dance practice," was the explanation. When she expressed interest in studying abroad, they covered her semester in Paris without hesitation. Despite this pattern, I tried not to be resentful. I told myself that maybe when I became a real adult, things would even out. Perhaps my parents were just preparing me for independence in their own misguided way. Now I work as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company. The pay is decent, but not spectacular. I rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate Tara in a neighborhood that's not exactly trendy but safe and convenient. For the past 3 years, I've been putting aside every extra dollar working freelance projects on weekends, selling handmade crafts online, and even participating in paid research studies. I'd managed to save $18,000 toward a down payment on a small home of my own. Every financial advisor says the first step to homeownership is nearly impossible for millennials like me, saving enough for that down payment. But I was determined to prove them wrong one extra shift and skipped latte at a time. Last Christmas morning dawned bright and clear. I woke up at 6 a.m. to make the 2-hour drive to my parents' suburban home. I carefully packed the presents I'd spent months preparing: a hand-knit cashmere scarf for Mom that took me 3 months of evenings to complete, and for Dad a vintage pocket watch I'd found at an antique store and restored myself. The watch was similar to one his grandfather had owned, based on a photograph I'd seen in our family album. The house looked the same as always during the holidays. White lights outlining the roof, the artificial wreath with the red bow on the front door, and inside the 7-foot tree adorned with the same ornaments they'd used since I was a child. Mom had prepared her traditional Christmas morning breakfast: cinnamon rolls, scrambled eggs, and her special hot chocolate with homemade whipped cream. "Jamie's not here yet," were practically the first words out of my mouth as I hugged my parents. "Oh, she texted that she's running a bit late," Mom said, glancing at her phone. "She's bringing someone special this year." Dad poured coffee for everyone. "How's the apartment still having issues with the heating?" "It's better now," I replied, not mentioning that I'd paid for the repair myself when the landlord dragged his feet. "How's the neighborhood book club going, Mom?" The conversation continued pleasantly enough, but every few minutes one of my parents would check their phone or glance toward the door. I noticed how the good china was set out, and Mom's special cranberry bread was cooling on the counter. Jamie's favorite. Almost 2 hours later, the front door swung open with a burst of cold air and laughter. Jamie entered, her blonde hair perfectly styled, despite the winter wind, arm in arm, with a tall, conventionally handsome man in an expensive-looking wool coat. "Merry Christmas, everyone," she announced. "Sorry we're late. This is Kyle." Kyle, as I quickly learned between Mom's excited questioning, was a 28-year-old startup founder who just secured his second round of funding. He had an MBA from an Ivy League school and a condo in the trendy part of downtown. My parents were instantly charmed. After a late breakfast that had been held for their arrival, we gathered around the Christmas tree for the gift exchange. Mom always insisted we take turns opening presents, so everyone could see each gift being unwrapped. Jamie went first, saving the small box from our parents for last. When she opened it and found a set of keys with the Audi logo, her shriek of delight probably could have been heard 3 blocks away. "Are you serious?" she gasped, jumping up to hug both our parents. "A new car! Oh my God!" Dad beamed proudly. "It's parked down the street. We wanted it to be a surprise." Kyle squeezed her shoulder. "That's incredible. You deserve it, babe." Everyone followed Jamie and our parents outside to see the sleek white Audi A4 parked at the curb, complete with a large red bow on the hood. There were exclamations, photographs, and Jamie even sat in the driver's seat while Kyle took pictures from multiple angles for her Instagram. When we finally returned inside, it was my turn to open my gift from our parents. The small, lightweight box didn't rattle when I shook it gently. I unwrapped it carefully, lifting the lid to find a pink ceramic piggy bank with a slot on top and $2 written in my mother's handwriting on a small card tucked beside it. 2 crisp $1 bills were folded underneath. I looked up, confused. My mother was smiling broadly as if she'd given me something wonderful. "That's our contribution to your future home," she explained cheerfully. "You're always talking about saving for a down payment." Dad nodded. "Everyone needs to start somewhere." Jamie tried to suppress a smile while Kyle looked uncomfortable for the first time since arriving. "That's thoughtful," he offered awkwardly. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. A new luxury car versus a child's piggy bank with $2. I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation as I forced a smile. "Thanks. It's very cute." As I sat there holding the piggy bank, memories from years of similar moments flooded through my mind. I remembered my 16th birthday when Jamie received her first car, a used Honda but still a car, while I got driving lessons and the promise that I could use Mom's car for my driver's test. "Your sister needs reliable transportation for her dance competitions," Dad had explained. "You can use the family car when it's available." I remembered working at the campus bookstore, the coffee shop, and doing online tutoring throughout college, watching my bank account fluctuate with each tuition payment. Meanwhile, Jamie's college experience was fully funded. Her apartment paid for her expenses, covered by our parents' credit card. "Jamie isn't good with money," Mom had told me when I finally worked up the courage to ask why they were paying her rent. "She needs more support to succeed." I thought about the time I tried to discuss the disparity with my parents during my junior year of college. I had carefully rehearsed what I would say, wanting to express my feelings without sounding entitled. "I feel like there's been a pattern of treating Jamie and me differently," I had said during a weekend visit home. "Oh, Bianca, you've always been too sensitive," Mom had replied with a dismissive wave of her hand. "We give you both what you need. You're just more independent by nature." Dad had nodded in agreement. "You should be proud of that strength. Not everyone has it." Their words had effectively shut down the conversation, making me feel like I was wrong for even bringing it up. Then there was my college graduation. I had been selected to receive a departmental award, which meant the ceremony would include my name being called and a brief moment on stage. I had mentioned this to my parents months in advance, reminding them again in the weeks leading up to the event. On graduation day, I waited nervously in my cap and gown, scanning the audience for familiar faces as families filled the auditorium. My parents and Jamie finally arrived just as my name was being called, missing the recognition entirely. They slipped into seats at the back as I returned to my place among the graduates. Jamie's dance rehearsal ran long, Mom explained afterward. We came as quickly as we could. No matter what I accomplished, Dean's List internship at a competitive firm promotion at work, the acknowledgement was always the same, a brief, good job, before the conversation turned to Jamie's latest achievement or challenge. I had spent years telling myself that this was normal, that all families have their dynamics, and that my parents loved us both equally in their own way. I reminded myself that I had learned valuable life skills through my experiences: independence, resilience, self-reliance. But sitting there on Christmas morning staring at a child's piggy bank while my sister's new car sat gleaming at the curb, I couldn't maintain the pretense any longer. The contrast was too stark, the message too clear. The house felt suddenly too warm, too crowded. I excused myself to help Mom with the dishes, following her into the kitchen, while the others continued examining Jamie's gifts. "Mom," I said quietly, turning the piggy bank in my hands, "can I ask why you and Dad got Jamie a car and me this?" Mom was rinsing plates, her back to me. "Oh, honey, don't be ungrateful. It's symbolic. You're always so good with money, and we thought it was cute." She turned, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. "Jamie needs more practical support. You know how she is." I took a deep breath. I understand that different people have different needs, but this feels extreme. An Audi for her and $2 for me. Mom's expression shifted from casual dismissal to slight irritation. "Bianca, you have a job and an apartment. Jamie's still figuring things out." "She has a job too," I pointed out. "And her rent is half what mine is because you and Dad pay the other half." Mom sighed heavily, as if I was being particularly difficult. "Look, if you must know, we had originally set aside some money for both of you. But we used what would have been your portion for Jamie's car. She needed it more than you needed extra savings." The casual way she said it, as if it was the most reasonable decision in the world, stunned me. "You used my money to buy Jamie a luxury car." "It wasn't your money, it was family money," Mom corrected. "And yes, we decided Jamie's need was greater. Besides, you've always been so independent. You're already saving for a house, right? You told us about your down payment fund." I felt lightheaded. "Yes, I've been working extra jobs for 3 years to save $18,000. See, you're doing fine on your own." Mom patted my arm. "Oh, and while we're being honest, I should probably mention that college fund your grandparents set up for you." "What college fund? I worked 3 jobs and took out loans." Mom had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. "Well, there was about $30,000 your grandparents had saved for each of you. We used yours to help with the down payment on the lake house. You were already managing with your scholarships and jobs, and the property has been such a blessing for the family." The lake house. The vacation property they'd purchased during my sophomore year of college, where Jamie spent summers with her friends while I worked double shifts to make tuition payments. "You used my college fund for a vacation home while I went into debt." My voice sounded strange to my own ears, hollow and distant. Mom straightened her shoulders defensively. "You don't really need our help, Bianca. You've always figured things out. You're resourceful and independent. Jamie isn't like that. She needs more support. Why can't you just be happy that you're capable?" In that moment, everything crystallized. Years of unequal treatment, of explanations and justifications, of being praised for my independence while that very quality was used to deny me the same support freely given to my sister. The ultimate irony being punished with neglect for the very strength I developed because of that neglect. I returned to the living room, the piggy bank clutched in my hand like evidence from a crime scene. Jamie was showing off pictures of a summer trip she was planning with friends, explaining how the new car would be perfect for the coastal drive. "We'll hit all the best beaches," she was telling Kyle and Dad. "Maybe stop at that winery you were talking about." They didn't notice me standing there watching this tableau of family harmony and support that had never quite included me in the same way. I looked around the living room, at the photos on the mantel showcasing Jamie's dance recitals and competitions at the Christmas tree, with ornaments commemorating family vacations I'd been unable to join because of work commitments at my parents and sister and her boyfriend sharing a moment of easy connection. I realized with sudden clarity that nothing would ever change. No achievement would ever be enough. No milestone would ever shift the fundamental dynamic of our family. I would always be the responsible one who didn't need help, whose needs and desires would be sacrificed for Jamie's, who would receive symbolic gestures while my sister received substantial support. With that realization came another. I didn't have to accept this anymore. I quietly climbed the stairs to my old bedroom, which now served as a guest room, but still contained a drawer of my belongings. I took out my overnight bag and packed my few possessions. I found a notepad and pen on the desk and wrote a brief note. I need some time to think. Please don't worry about me. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. I looked around the room one last time, then walked down the hallway past the family photos. I paused at one showing the four of us at the beach years ago. I must have been about 12 with Jamie at 7. We were building a sandcastle together, genuinely happy in that moment. I wondered when and why things had changed so dramatically between us. In the upstairs bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face and took several deep breaths. Was I overreacting? Was this childish to leave on Christmas Day because of a disappointing gift? No, I realized. This wasn't about a piggy bank or $2. This was about years of inequality, about the discovery that my parents had used money meant for my education to buy a vacation home, about the casual admission that they'd taken funds intended for me and given them to my sister instead. This was about finally acknowledging a painful truth in this family: I would always come second. I descended the stairs, quietly slipping on my coat and gathering my purse and keys while everyone remained engaged in conversation in the living room. I placed my note on the entryway table alongside the piggy bank. Then I walked out the front door, closing it softly behind me. The winter air felt brisk and clarifying as I walked to my car. I had just put my bag in the trunk when my phone buzzed with a text message from Mom. Don't forget to... I didn't read the rest of the message until I'd driven 20 minutes to the Daily Grind, a small coffee shop open even on Christmas Day. I ordered a peppermint mocha and sat at a corner table, finally checking my phone to see the complete text from my mother. Don't forget to take your piggy bank with you. That's our contribution. Merry Christmas. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Even now, she didn't understand what had happened or why I had left. In her mind, I was probably being dramatic, ungrateful, or oversensitive, the usual explanations for whenever I expressed hurt feelings. Bianca, is that you? I looked up to see Tracy Reynolds, my friend from high school, who I hadn't seen in nearly 2 years. Her curly hair was shorter now, and she wore a barista uniform. Tracy, I didn't know you worked here. She gestured at her name tag. Manager now, actually. Just covering the holiday shifts so my employees can be with their families. She sat down across from me. Speaking of which, why aren't you with yours? It's Christmas Day. The simple question broke something open inside me. Before I knew it, I was telling Tracy everything. The years of unequal treatment, the college fund that was spent on a lake house, the car versus piggy bank incident, and my abrupt departure. So now I'm sitting in a coffee shop on Christmas Day with nowhere to go. I concluded, embarrassed by the tears that had formed despite my efforts to remain composed. Tracy reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's not true. You can stay with me until you figure things out. My apartment has a pretty comfortable sofa bed, and I could use the company. My roommate's away visiting family until New Year's. That night in Tracy's cozy apartment, I made a decision. I took the $2 my parents had given me, which Tracy had insisted on stopping by the house to retrieve, marching past my shocked mother to grab the piggy bank from the entryway table, and transferred them into my savings account via the banking app on my phone. In the notes section, I typed, "Family contribution." It was a small, symbolic act, but it felt important, acknowledging the reality of my situation while refusing to be diminished by it. Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed with Tracy while searching for a new place to live. My parents called and texted repeatedly, their messages evolving from confused, "Why did you leave so suddenly?" to concerned, "Please just let us know you're safe," to defensive, "We've always supported you the best we could." I responded only to let them know I was safe but needed space to think. Jamie texted too, vacillating between sisterly concern and indignation that I had ruined Christmas with my dramatic exit. Meanwhile, I threw myself into apartment hunting with renewed determination. With my savings and solid credit score, I qualified for a small one-bedroom condo in an up-and-coming neighborhood. It needed cosmetic updates, but was structurally sound, something I could make my own. I also began researching how to turn my craft hobby into a legitimate side business. For years, I'd been making handmade jewelry and home goods that friends had encouraged me to sell. Now, with the realization that I truly was on my own, entrepreneurship seemed like a practical way to increase my income and build something that belonged entirely to me. 6 months later, my life looked dramatically different. I had moved into my condo, painting the walls in soothing shades of blue and green, finding furniture at estate sales and thrift stores that I refinished myself. My online craft business was gaining traction with steady sales and positive reviews. At first, my parents' calls and messages had been frequent and increasingly insistent. Mom vacillated between guilt trips, "I can't believe you would hurt us like this," and minimization, "You're blowing this whole thing out of proportion." Dad mostly echoed Mom's sentiments, occasionally adding that I was being unfair to Jamie, who misses you. I maintained my boundaries, responding briefly and factually, without engaging in their attempts to make me feel guilty or dismiss my feelings. After about 3 months, the tone of their messages began to change. There were fewer accusations and more genuine questions. "How are you doing? Can we talk sometime soon? We've been thinking about what you said." Jamie surprisingly underwent her own transformation. When her car needed expensive repairs and our parents suggested she figure it out herself, like Bianca would, she had apparently experienced a moment of clarity. She began working more hours at her job and taking on freelance photography gigs. According to her reluctant text to me, she had even started therapy. 1 year after the Christmas incident, I agreed to meet my family at a neutral location, a restaurant halfway between my new home and theirs. I arrived early, choosing a corner table where I could see the door. When they arrived, the awkwardness was palpable. We exchanged stilted greetings and ordered drinks, making small talk about the weather and the restaurant's decor, until Mom finally addressed the elephant in the room. "Bianca, we've done a lot of thinking this past year," she began, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "The way you left last Christmas, it made us realize we needed to examine some things." Dad nodded. "We didn't see it before. How differently we treated you and Jamie. Or maybe we didn't want to see it. We told ourselves we were doing what was best for each of you," Mom continued. "That you were strong and independent, so you didn't need the same support Jamie did." "But we were wrong," Dad said firmly. "We put too much on your shoulders from a young age. We took advantage of your responsibility and self-reliance." Jamie, who had been studying her water glass intently, looked up. "I didn't see it either, Bianca. Not until you were gone, and suddenly I was expected to handle things on my own. It was harder than I thought." Their words were what I had longed to hear for years, yet I felt surprisingly calm. The validation was welcome but no longer necessary for my sense of self-worth. "I appreciate you saying that," I told them. "This year has been challenging, but also clarifying. I've built a life I'm proud of." I told them about my condo, my growing business, and my plans for the future. As I spoke, I realized how much I had accomplished in a single year of truly putting myself first. "We're proud of you," Mom said, tears in her eyes. "And we're sorry it took losing you to see how much we'd hurt you." I didn't promise an instant return to family holidays or weekly dinners. Instead, I suggested we start with occasional meetings like this one. Neutral ground, clear boundaries, honest communication. They agreed, seeming to understand that rebuilding trust would take time. As we were leaving, Jamie hung back to speak with me privately. "I still have the car," she said with a small smile. "But I'm paying for the insurance myself now, and I got a promotion at work last month." "That's great," I said, meaning it. "I miss you," she added. "But I think I understand now why you needed to leave." On my dresser at home, The pink piggy bank sits as a reminder, not of rejection or inequality, but of the moment I chose to value myself when others wouldn't. Inside it are the original $2 which I never did deposit. They're my reminder that sometimes the greatest gift is realizing you don't need what someone else has to offer. The greatest lesson I learned wasn't about family dynamics or even self-reliance. It was about defining home for myself. Home isn't necessarily where you grew up or where your biological family lives. Home is where you are respected, valued, and loved for exactly who you are. Sometimes you have to build that place yourself, brick by brick, choice by choice. Have you ever had to walk away from a situation that wasn't serving you? Did it lead to unexpected growth or positive change? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more stories about finding strength in challenging situations. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful destinations.